I made a phone call to the organ company in Louisiana that did her surgery. And I said, can y'all help me? It's been 28 years. Is there anything? I just need something. And I got a call 2 days later with a list of 6 people that my sister saved, up to 30 to 40 that she could have enhanced their lives with tissue. People got their sight back, a heart, kidney. So for me, I remember crying because it became real. Because all I knew is what I had lost. I never realized the gain part. And so in the last year, I've been learning and meeting people that have received organs. And the result of that was me writing the story. So God told me to write her story, and I didn't say no. But I wrote it as a young adult book to kind of bring the awareness of organ donation. So I wanted to say, okay, if you're not here anymore, if you can help someone, why wouldn't you?
Welcome to part 2 of season 2's finale of the Good Grief, Good God show, hosted by Grammy nominee and Emmy award-winning hit songwriter Brad Warren of the Warren Brothers. Before we begin, note that you can access links to both part 1 and 2 in the description show notes below. I'm producer Matt Peveto. For part 1, I had the honor of sitting down with Brad to reflect on this incredible journey that brought life to the show. We also look back at 2024. Brad talks about losing his home in Florida to the hurricane, while I share my experience of becoming father again at nearly 50 years old, to the heartbreak of losing my mother to dementia and navigating that grief alongside my brother and father, my father who was married to my mother for nearly 60 years. For part 2, Brad welcomes author and segment producer for the show, Lisa Boullt. Lisa will share her unique perspective on this journey and discuss her book 17 Again, which tells the powerful story of losing her sister at the age of 17. We're currently taping for season 3, set to premiere this summer. In the meantime, visit goodgriefgoodgodshow.com for the most up-to-date show information, including to access the back catalog of episodes, plus more. To close, producing the show has been one of the greatest honors of my life, helping carry the legacy of Brad and Michelle's son, Sage. The show stands as a testament to the power of faith, of guiding us through even our darkest days. On the behalf of our entire team, we're incredibly grateful for your continued support. As always, the Good Grief, Good God show is brought to you in loving memory of Sage Michael Warren, and the season finale is dedicated to the loving memory of my mother, Linda Joyce Peveto, and Lisa's sister, Andrea Michelle Boultt.
Hello, Lisa.
Hello, Lisa.
So you are the 4th member of this Good Grief, Good God team.
I am.
And I just wanted everyone to be able to hear why you're doing this.
I think when all of this, I was actually with you guys when we were all at the same event in Texas. And I just remember it coming, the question coming, and I remember you were like, no, I'm not doing this. And it's just kind of been beautiful to watch this whole thing come together, because as we all know, grief is one of the hardest things you'll ever go through. But when you do it with your friends or your family, people that you love, we get through it. And for me, it was not even a question of yes or no. It was like, when do we start?
Well, let's clarify. We already work together. You kind of run mine and my brother's lives, along with a bunch of other songwriters in town. So we've worked together for a lot of years. I don't do a whole lot without running it by you anyway, just on a graphic standpoint. But when we started doing this podcast, it was just like, there was just an empty spot. Like, this is going to require some things. And it's like, well, okay, Lisa's had lost. She runs everything we do anyway. And so it's like, hey, well, you want to do this? And it's just become, whatever goes on, the 4 of us have this little bond of whatever. Yeah.
Well, and because of my love for your son. I mean, your son.
Let's start there. You were close to my son.
Oh, yeah. My gosh. I have a tattoo for your son.
You're close to all my sons.
I am. Yeah. Your son was so special, and I've watched all of your boys grow up, and we had a special bond. He got me hooked on The Office, and we would text.
That right there is a gift.
Miss Lisa, you have not seen The Office? I'm like, no.
I mean, if you haven't seen The Office, your life is only half fulfilled. Anyone's. That's.
I mean, I've walked with Michelle, you and Michelle, through this. But if I could back up a little bit to share a little bit of how I was able to do this with you guys, is because I watched my mother. It helped me kind of know where to go with you guys, because 31 years ago, my mom lost my sister. and she was 17. She died in a car wreck. So I watched my parents walk through this. It was a lot different many years ago. And my mom also lost her parents. My dad lost his mom. So I lost my sister, all three grandparents in 6 months. Ooh. And this was in 1993 to 94. So through those years of grief, I kind of watched, and I think, I wouldn't say it helped me, but it kind of did, because I kind of was able to come in with you guys as I would my mother and love on Michelle, love on you.
Ask you something. I've never asked you this before. We've talked about this a lot, this subject a lot. How did your parents deal with that? With your sister? What did they do? That's a long time ago.
Well, they were divorced. They had actually divorced before that wreck happened, so that was already part of the story. And they also, Mom was getting ready to move here. She was moving here like 2 weeks before the wreck happened. So already looking for apartments. So I do know that's a God thing, because 6 months before she died, she spent 3 weeks with me here, like 3 weeks together. And all these little, I go back and go, oh, thank you. Yeah. Thank you for that gift. So I watched them handle it differently, because my mom was able to move here and start kind of a new life. Mm-hmm. And not that she forgot, it was just not in the same, she didn't live in the same home. So my sister had already packed her bedroom. So all of the things that are hard to do didn't have to be done, because she was supposed to be moving in 2 weeks. So I look at those as gifts for my mom, that she didn't, none of us had to go through her stuff. It was already done. So those are gifts. So for my mom, I watched her kind of just start a new life here, just without her daughter. And I can't, it's weird. I can't remember a lot, because I was in my own little world and I just started college. And that's for me where it's like, I don't remember a lot, because I kind of shut that part of my life down and just made sure my mom was okay. And then for my dad, I had to think about it from his perspective. I moved away from home. Him and my mom got divorced, and then my sister died. So he lost all three women in his life within like a year. And I never realized that until later, a few years later, when I'm unlocking a lot of these memories of going, gosh, my dad lost everything. The three women he loved.
What was his life like after that?
He was never the same. They both were very sad. But one thing I will say, and I think you and Michelle the same way, like, they were still our parents. They never shut down on us. Like, my mom continued, because I feel like in some situations, a parent can shut down and then they're not available for the rest of their children.
And by the way, I get it.
So for me was like, I don't really know, because I didn't live with my dad. He was in Louisiana, so he was 8 hours away. He was very sad a lot, but he never let it bring him down. He remarried, and the wife he married had a daughter, and so I think that helped a little bit. And then we had a lot of nieces and nephews around, so he just did the best he could.
Yeah,
he did, and so did both my parents. But they both remarried. I'll just leave it at that.
It's just so weird to say, and it may not even be true, and I don't want to offend anyone. But when you're in love with the mother of that kid that you lost, or the father, by the way, in a way it makes it harder, because our family unit, it's not perfect, but I love my wife and I love my boys, and we were a little gang. Me and my three boys were a gang, and my wife was the one that kept us all in line, and that family unit is one picture short. There's one being short. And so this results in a lot of divorce, but I also see, and as much as it's probably harder in a way to be divorced, it also is harder in a different way when you're still there, because that family unit is all intact except for that one kid that's not there. So
I will say, for me, my parents got closer after this, and then they still had me as their child. Even though they were not together, they still... So I feel like there was a little gift that came with that they actually became closer, because the divorce was kind of, it wasn't great. Because even later in the years, my dad would come through town, he'd stop and have dinner so it definitely, it got better. It got better for both of them. So. And
then, so now you obviously have, and we're going to talk about, you wrote a book, and you're really involved in the organ donorship and whatever, and you've taken on these things. But at the time when your sister died, you were a young person.
I was 24.
And how much of that did I say get it? Of course you got it, but like watching your mom and dad go through it's
Correct.
Hard. But
here's where it was different. I was able to compartmentalize it because she died in Louisiana, so she's buried in Louisiana. So my brain was like, it's in Louisiana. I don't have to deal with it right now. she's at school, she's, and it didn't make it easier. It was just a coping mechanism for me at the time. I was 24, first semester back to college, it was a lot going, and then all 3 grandparents died. So by the 3rd funeral, I did not cry. I didn't shed a tear. I was like, I'm not coming back here because it's the same hospital, same funeral home, same burial. So it just repeated her funeral 3 other times for me. And so I would say at that point, I kind of shut myself down from really dealing with anything because I was worried about my mom. I was worried about my dad. I put myself on the back burner.
And then when did freight train hit you?
Well, which time? I mean,
right.
Well, my dad passed away, in 2012 on my birthday. That was a rough one. Once again, though, he was in Louisiana. Okay. Then in 2017, my mom had a 10-year battle with cancer, off and on breast cancer, and I lost her in April. So Matt's story today, I was feeling a lot of it today with his story about his mom. So that was like my lowest point for me personally in grief, because all of it, like we talk about my tattoos. Every tattoo represents someone I've lost. It's a flower. Like I said, I have one for Sage. And it's people that are special to me. And I'm pretty sleeved up now. But I love that. I mean, I'm glad I went through all that because I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I always say, I was thinking about, like, if Brad asked me the hardest thing, how am I going to answer? I really think my mom's death was the hardest thing for me because I was with her. I was not with her when she took her last breath, but I left 2 hours early and went to dinner, and then she died like right after. Like, she didn't want me there.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. I was not with my father either. But I got through it, not easiest, but I did the work. I did grief counseling with hospice. I started jumping in and doing work that I should have been doing 20 years before. So I would say I had to go backwards a little bit in order to, I did 2 years of grief counseling, and I remember her name was Diane. I don't think you ever met her. And I was doing so good. I was like, I am great. And she goes, good, this is our last session. And I started crying on her. I was like, you can't throw that on me. Not today. So I said, you got to give me a time frame, because that's what I think for me, when something is sudden, just like with Sage, when it's something that happens really fast, it kind of throws me into a little, no, you can't do that. I need to ease into the situation. So
it's ongoing thing. So you've, like, what do you mean we're done?
I was like, no, it can't be done. I just started crying. I hadn't cried in months. And then when she said it was over, and then we said, okay, we're going to stop in December. I was like, okay, good. I know when it's stopping. So I was able to prepare, because to me, when you kind of have trauma like that or something traumatic happen, there's no time to prepare. So if I can prepare, I will.
And the I'll be honest, the shock of it or whatever is it's almost a blessing in a way. You don't know that there's some immediate swelling on your brain that goes up. And I always say the first year of real grief is like that time when your broken ankle's all swollen up and it doesn't really hurt. And then the swelling goes down in the second year and it hurts.
The second year is harder than the first sometimes.
Way harder. I mean, God, I hate to tell people that in their first year. They're like, what? I'm like, it's different.
It's different.
It's that swelling is down. Everyone's gotten back to their lives. And it's interesting, when Sage died, you were here. Of course you were here. We're close in our families. But it was like kind of once the dust had settled, you kind of came around and said, okay, now let's really talk about
That's
this.
kind of my thing. I mean, because I know. And I think for me, do you remember I stole the flowers from Sage's funeral?
Yeah. I love that you steal flowers from funerals. It's awesome.
I do. And it was really funny because y'all had a lot of white flowers, and that's the worst flower to dry because they turn kind of brownish. So I'm like out there by the pool. I'm like, and Michelle's mom was like, what are you doing? I'm like, don't ask. You're not looking at me right now. But there's always like a 3 or 4 month period by the time I take them, dry them, and then I have a lady in Louisiana that does them for me. And about that time was about that 4 months or something. And I was like, hey, can I come over? And I said, I have to tell y'all, I stole flowers from Sage's funeral. But then I brought out the things, and it was a sweet moment. We all cried, but it's a way to have, it's not necessarily a happy memory. It's a sweet thing when you look at them. It's not so sad.
Yeah, and all memories to me are good ones now. I don't necessarily, happies would be tough to say they're all happy, but they're all good ones. Like, I want them.
Yeah.
We played a show the night at the hotel where Sage used to work, and a girl that came up and she was talking to Brett, and Brett said, hey, come here, you need to meet this girl. Anyway, she was a friend of Sage's. She wanted to see if it was okay to say hello. I'm like, and I hugged her like she was my daughter. And it was just so, And it was a little bit of a painful thing.
Yeah.
But I like that pain. I want to hear about it.
You want to hear the story.
And I want to experience it. On the way home, I just turned the radio off and I just spent the ride home with him. So happy, I don't know if I call it happy, but good. Yeah, I'll take it.
Or sweet.
Real.
I get asked sometimes, like, is it different from your mom to your dad, or which one was worse? And it's really, none of them are the same. Like, I mean, I don't even know. That's a tough question because my dad lived 8 hours away.
Yeah.
So I could say my dad's out of town, but when it's right in your face, and I had, the last 4 months of my mom's life, I kind of laid in bed with her.
Yeah. No, I mean, I remember that going on with you.
It was real. And I was like, this sucks.
And in my mind, this is so terrible, but as your close friend, until you've really experienced loss, I'm like, man, that's so sad. At least his mom's gonna die. But I didn't really realize, like, until you've experienced, I had experience. My dad died. I mean, when I was young. I mean, he was 60. I don't know, I was 30, but it was, I don't know, until you experience grief the right way. I experienced grief before, but not the right. I didn't do it the right way. I was alcoholic, still using. Didn't this time, and I'm not, making any manual on it. I don't know, but I definitely experienced grief more of the right way this time. And when you do that, then you can understand what your friends are going through. And I didn't really understand it like I would have.
Yeah, and it was like I said, just laying there with her, and I don't know about, I'm sure there's listeners that feel this, but I was grieving her before she was gone. And I even told Matt, I was like, stop doing that. Your mom's still here, but you do grieve a version of them when they're not the same. They don't look the same. They can't talk. They can't communicate. But I had to kind of snap out of it for a minute because I'm like, she's still here. Process this, because I was already thinking of what my life looked like without her. And I had to kind of reel myself again because I was like, she's still here. And I just think about all of those things. And I'm grateful that I have those memories to look back on, and also the little God winks all through those. And we were talking about, like, she was seeing things too. I could see it. Like, you could tell she was, like, noticing things. And I'm thinking, you get to be with everybody because everyone's there. And I still have a brother, an older brother, but it's just me and him as far as, our immediate family. Like, you get to go see my sister, you get to go see my dad, and it's kind of like with
I totally believe that when I see someone that's looking up, I'm like, yeah, they're seeing something.
She was doing that a couple of days before. Yeah, it was an experience, and I'm kind of glad I didn't see her last breath. I don't know if I could have. I don't know.
Yeah, there's some things that I you can't unsee something once you've seen it, and then there's some things that you do. But so let's talk about the organ donorship.
Well, I feel like 3 years ago is where my life kind of took a big shift. Michelle and I, your wife, we were at a charity event, and we were introduced to Jamie Hurd. And that's kind of where the shift started happening for me. Jamie lost William at this time of year, 9 years ago, I believe. Is that right, Michelle? And I remember her, we were introduced by Kimberly from hospice, and she's like, y'all need to know each other. And that night kind of changed my life because as we're talking to Jamie, Michelle can remember, I got in the car and I was like, I know her. I don't know how I know her, but I know her. You remember that? And you're like, she was a teacher at Ensworth. And I'm like, that's how I know her, because she taught Samuel. And I remember William, it was all put together. But the night we were talking about, she was asking about my tattoos.
And she's a core member of this Faithfully Restored, which is amazing. They take care of women.
And she's been a guest on the show. Yeah, we were talking about my tattoos, and I said, that's for a mom, dad, sister. Well, of course, the sister thing stood out there, and she goes, what happened? And I said, she died, 28 years ago in a car wreck. And she was also an organ donor like William. And she's like, what do you know about her story? And I was like, I don't know anything. Nothing. And that was a little embarrassing. When I talk to kids now, I tell them that. I'm like, I kind of needed an answer.
Yeah.
So 2 days later, I made a phone call to the organ company in Louisiana that did her surgery. And I said, can y'all help me? It's been 28 years. Is there anything? I just need something, just something. And I got a call 2 days later with a list of 6 people that my sister saved, up to 30 to 40 that she could have enhanced their lives with tissue.
Do they give you names? They don't give you names.
Gave me first names.
Wow.
So I have a list. I had this list of first names. People got their sight back, a heart, kidney, lung. I mean, not lungs, liver. So for me, I remember crying because it became real. because all I knew is what I had lost. I never realized the gain part. And so in the last year, I've been learning and meeting people that have received organs, and I'm like, can I hug you? Like, I just want to hug you. And the result of that was me writing the story. So God told me to write her story, and I didn't say no. I don't write books. I don't even read books. I mean, let's just be honest. But I wrote it as a young adult book to kind of bring the awareness of organ donation. So I wanted to say, okay, if you're not here anymore, if you can help someone, why wouldn't you?
It's interesting too. It makes me think it's not just, and from your, I didn't think too much. I'm an organ donor because they asked me at the driver's license, oh, show me an organ donor. I'm like, sure, I don't care. I'm getting cremated anyway. Yeah. Take it all. But I didn't think about this aspect of it. It's not just helping the people that get the organs, but it helps you all these years later. You're like, oh my God, her heart went to somebody, and that heart saved someone's life, and they probably wouldn't have had children, and forever and ever and ever, whatever lineage that line goes, I'm involved in that. So it's not really, it's kind of a funny thing, but like, it's not just for the people getting it, it's for the person that you lost. I mean, that's a no-brainer, by the way.
It's been great. The book came out, I released it on her birthday, 30 years after she died, and it just felt right. It was a lot of people were there. It was a little overwhelming.
How weird do you think about your sister being 47?
Insane. And that's where it's like, that's where the time kind of just gets away from me. I'm like, she could have had kids, and, she would have probably had like 5 kids. That would have been her. But when I've been going into high schools recently and talking to teenagers about this, about organ donation, and I tell them, I'm like, you're not indestructible. I said, usually if you're somewhere you're not supposed to be, consequences, you don't know. And I kind of explained to her about the wreck or to them about the wreck and how it happened. But it's just, I'm telling you, I love watching God work in my life, because if I would have told you last year that I'd be speaking, you'd be like, Lisa, you're speaking? Because I don't speak.
I can see you're a good speaker though.
Yeah, but I'm behind the scenes. That's what I'm good at. That's my thing. But it has been great to kind of talking about the grief, faithfully restored. Like, we're not running around grief. We're in it between the podcast. And then I volunteer twice a month at Faithfully.
But that's the greatest group of women, these amazing alpha females, like just taking care of each other. It's research it if you.
Michelle and I are it's very special to our heart, but I don't want to brag, but I am the lead volunteer in the grief packages. So every month we send about 60 packages to women who are experiencing an anniversary. We talked about it earlier with that month before. So this month we sent out 60 for January. And so it's anyone from a husband, a child, a parent, and it gets kind of heavy, but then it's also like the feeling of like how they're going to feel when they receive that package. So I love doing that twice a month. I do this podcast with you guys. So we're in it. I'm not trying to get through it or over it. I'm in it.
And interestingly, that is when you're the best. I mean, not just you, not just me, but all of us. Like it's the way we say about recovery, like you got to give it away to keep it.
Yeah.
It's literally the point when it's all okay is when you're in service. That's just true for everyone. And it kind of sucks because I want to get all my work done at some point and sit back on the beach with a cigar and I've reaped my benefits. It just isn't how it works. I am best off when I'm sacrificing, when I'm serving some other person. I'm sponsoring somebody or just showing up to recovery meetings or just going to Faith Restored and stuffing envelopes. Sometimes it's just like showing up and being present. And so it shouldn't take the tragedy and grief, whatever, for us to learn to do it. But it took that for me. It takes what it takes. And you're a good person anyway. You're a server and a provider, and you've been helping me for as long as I can remember and the stuff in my career, but this stuff is different. This comes from a different place.
I'm so honored to be a part of it. And, upset in I think the only one I missed was Granger's, but I mean, Michelle and I'll be back and we're back here crying. We can't face you because you'll see us crying.
You and Michelle are the reson I face this way. Yeah.
Correct.
Because I was like, did Jesus call him? When I was looking at you guys, I'm like, this is never going to work. I got to be a basket case.
But it's been so sweet because everyone that's come, most of them are friends, and just to kind of hear their stories. And, I think everyone has a lot more in common than they realize, because I feel like a lot of people have had loss. Maybe they just don't talk about it like we do. But I do feel I've gone through this journey. You've gone through this journey so we can be there for other people.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I mean, because I'm able to jump in when someone and love on them because I'm not saying November sucked for me. So I'm not great all the time.
But you run to the fire instead of away from
Correct.
it. And that's just something well, why would you run towards the fire? It's hot over there. And now I run to the fire instead of running away from it. And it's just not, honestly, you think all these things that go through your thought process, well, they want their privacy. And I would have thought that too. I want my privacy. No, they don't want their privacy. They want you to be there.
You know, this last week, I told Michelle the other day, there's several people I've asked that have lost someone. I'm like, tell me how you honor them at Christmas, or how do you celebrate them at Christmas, which normally I don't know if I would ask that, but it just comes out. And they say, thank you for asking. Thank you for asking me about my person that's not here anymore. Because there's something about that empty seat at the table. Holidays are harder for all of us because it's a reminder of what we don't have.
But at the bottom of us, at least for me, this person that knew him, that hasn't forgotten him, that asked about him, that still laughs about him. The girl at the hotel the other day that did New Sage, that was friends with him, she said, and she was telling Brett, and he was crying. She said he was so funny. He made us laugh so hard one time. The manager scolded the entire staff because Sage had everyone
laughing.
Everyone on the first floor was like staggering with laughter, laughing at him, and it just made I'm just like
But what a gift that was for you. Yeah. When you start hearing, when I was writing my book, I reached out to a lot of my sister's friends because I didn't really know how they had met. I was 7 years older. And so I got to reconnect, and they were telling on her. I mean, they took my car one time, rolled it out of the driveway. I'm like, what? You did what? They said, oh, yeah, we rolled your car out and drove around the neighborhood. I was like, they were spilling the tea. But it was really nice to reconnect. And it's nice to hear stories about people. Or like one day I ran into my mom's old boss, like at Lowe's, like randomly. And it was just someone that knew someone that you loved that's not with us anymore, and you just kind of randomly, those are sweet little God winks.
Oh, yeah. I love doing it. I love that they stole your car. I feel that's awesome.
Oh, I was like,
ballsy.
Because I had a stick shift, so they just put it in neutral and pushed it out the driveway. I was like, and they did a lot of stuff. I was like, oh, I was totally clueless, apparently.
That's so awesome.
But it is sweet when you have those reminders, and I've tried to start making notes of these things when they happen during the day or during the week, of a little God wink. During the holidays. And
you know what? The holidays are what they are, but throw yourself into some kind of service, whatever it is. It's just better than holding up.
I think what's hard for me, and I'm sure y'all can relate, is creating that new tradition. Because with every loss, there's a new tradition created. Because I think about when my mom, let's say when her parents passed, we created different things, but then when they're all gone, it's like, ew, what do we do now? And so Mike and I find ourselves kind of like, what do we do?
Do you find a new tradition? Because just part of it, like a Jeff Bridges side of me, that's like, no new tradition. Like, I'm trying not to make any plans.
We're just kind of rolling with it, is what we're doing. That's
like, wear life like a loose garment. You know what I mean? I'm trying to wear life like a loose garment. And maybe the new tradition is not having one or whatever it is. Maybe. I don't, maybe that's, sometimes I'm like, is this because I'm sober, or because I'm old, or because I'm grieving? All of it. You know what I mean?
Check yes.
There's a lot of things I don't give a crap about that I wish I hadn't given a crap about.
I was looking at our tree the other night, and decorating usually is harder for me, but this year it was okay. I got through November. It was rough because that's the month my sister died, so it's kind of starts the holidays. But our tree the other night, I was looking at it. I have an ornament for Sage. I have my sister. I have everyone that has passed. It's become like a little memory tree, but it also just, it's so sweet.
Sounds like you need a black tree.
It's not black though. It's got a snowman hat on it. It's actually really cute. But there's also a lot of sweet little from vacations and stuff. But I really enjoy it because I look around at all these homemade ornaments, and it's just really sweet.
And it's kind of like your tattoos. You're honoring the people, your people.
Yeah, I'm running out of room though, so I'm not sure. When people ask me about my tattoos, and I tell them it's for my special friend Sage, that left this earth too soon.
Well, he really loved you, and I know you really loved him, and that just you've been great to my family, and we love you like family. But that relationship with Sage makes it even. It's just makes it all the more special, and anyone who loves my son that's not here anymore is special to me. It's a really strange kind of thing, but if like his best friend from high school comes over here, and it's just like,
he got a tattoo as well, right?
He did.
We were all inking up that year. You and I were back and forth.
I paid for his tattoo, his best friend's
You
tattoo.
did?
And he's black, so it wasn't as like you couldn't see it as much. So I was like, dig in. I was telling my guy, make it get thick in there.
Well, if it's
so
a mic tattoo, it's gonna be deep.
And he was yelling. It was so fun because he's tough, awesome, great looking kid or whatever. But he was in there just like a little bit yelling like a girl.
But I love that there's so many people with sage tattoos. I feel like there's a lot.
My nieces, a lot of my nieces, maybe all of them, not all of them.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of, there's just a lot of, it's very.
I think tattoos are a beautiful way to carry them with us. I think it's a way for me to talk about them. I even have some for my dogs.
They're not even dead yet.
Yeah, they are. 2 of them are. That's what these are. Yeah, that's their paw prints. Remember?
Okay. I thought you were giving live dogs a tattoo.
No, I'm not doing that. Not doing that. But it is a sweet way. And then, of course, now I'm thinking I just want one.
Yeah. Pain therapy. We were calling it for a while.
It's pain. It still is.
Therapy. We're going and.
But I can't wait to see what's next for Good Grief and in your book, which
Yeah. I haven't really talked about it, but it's done. Whatever it is, my mom's gonna hate it, but it's interesting. I don't know. I think there's something about the truth, and it doesn't mean that everybody's got to feel the same way about everything. I'm not angry.
I mean, that's one good thing about you guys and your dad's group and Michelle with the mom's group. I mean, it's just pure honesty in the room. Like, there is no filters. There's no
pretense. It's
nothing
not in the room.
And that's what people need, especially when they're going through grief. Like, they just need people to be real.
Yep.
Don't tell me it's going to be okay. Don't tell me. I mean, there's just things.
And that's got to come from other grieving people.
It does.
And it doesn't mean that I don't have great friends that haven't experienced much grief that have been great to me. Man, I'm so fortunate in life. But the real comfort comes from people who have been there, who are there.
Do you know, I had a student, she stood out to me. I've been to about 6 high schools already, but this one girl, after I talked, she goes, "You're one strong woman." And I was like, "Cute." I was like, "Can I hug you?" And I hugged her. It was just sweet for a teenager to see that. I mean, because you see the tattoos. I mean, obviously, the pains with it. And yeah, it's really interesting. But I feel like I'm not saying I don't have bad days, because I still do, but man, they're far and few between these days.
Yeah, I have bad days occasionally, and it usually results in my wife telling me to go to an AA meeting.
Like yesterday.
Because I'm getting manic. Like yesterday. But my bad days are, it's funny, I do sad is fine. Like I can just get quiet and just be, which is rare for anyone in my family, but just get quiet. But usually what it does is I get angry, and then I just want to
you get frazzled.
And that's not no, anger's only good in like deep controlled anger, and I don't have any of that. So I have to just, as an alcoholic, I have to leave anger on the table. But it's a journey. It's all a journey. I love you. I appreciate you being such a great friend to my family. And for loving Sage the way you did, and for helping us with the show and all the things that we do. But this show has been
I mean, I feel like it's cool for all of us to kind of know why we were doing it. It wasn't just, hey, let's do this together.
And literally, this has been the 4 of us. It's just like a lot of days in here, greeting someone at the front door who may have never been here before. A lot of friends of mine that have never been to my home, and just welcoming. And so, honestly, just you and Michelle both welcoming someone into our house while Matt's destroying it. You and Michelle are cleaning up the candle wax and whatever.
Little black zip ties and the tape. Those are the things. It's like, how do you know if Matt's been at your house? There's
zip ties. Zip ties on the floor. I think I found them in my underwear the other day. But it has literally been like it's like a labor of love, literally, and just wouldn't have any other experience. Whatever has happened is exactly the way God wanted it to go, and where it's been very it's been cathartic. For if I'm the person that got helped, then so be it.
I didn't love what Matt was sharing, but I love the stories of people. We don't even know. Just like my Start the Ripple, we don't even know. We can't even touch what this podcast is doing for people. We have no idea. We kind of do, but it's probably so much more than we can even realize.
Well, in talking about the Ripple, and you have this cool thing with a heart. But starting the Ripple, I mean, you just never know if it's the one person that feeds the one person that feeds the multitude. This is not here. It's so interesting. I heard Joe Rogan had this funny thing. He was going on Spotify, and someone said, "Oh, you're gonna disappear into oblivion. And he goes, I wish I was like 10% less famous. Interestingly, but when he went into that from the discussion of he was just trying to help other comics when he started his podcast, and it was years before he ever did anything. The truth is, I don't care about any of that other stuff anymore. I mean, it's fine. I mean, I like to make money because you want to be comfortable, and we're all at the service at the feet of comfort. Really, the same things don't matter to me. I like the freedom, and I want to go to do it, but it's not. None of it's for status or for show. And when you bring something like that, somebody's gonna be affected in a positive way because
it's your heart posture,
yeah,
right?
Wow. Heart posture.
Heart posture.
I like it.
I use that a lot lately.
Good.
Kind of like, where is it coming from?
Heart
Your back posture's not good. How's your heart posture?
Well, it's just squishing my heart now. No, my back part.
But no, it is kind of like we all did this. There's no money involved. It's nothing like that. It's because we all four had been through stuff, and we wanted to just share other people's story. I mean, there's so many of them that I related to, and they're sitting in this chair I could relate to.
And before we go, Lisa's book. Lisa, you're a blessing. I love you. Thank you for all the help with all the stuff that we do. And
can't wait to see what's next.
Season 3 of this.
Season 3
coming up, and more books. Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
I love you.
Love you. Appreciate you.
Love you.
Awesome.
You're so good.